Hello, hello, hello. Nate here with the Volunteer Tech Vlog on the Live Sound 101 YouTube channel. This is the YouTube channel that was spun off from the Live Sound 101 video series. I originally started over on the Big Nate 84 YouTube channel. That's my other personality there. It's my alter ego there, doing the how-to stuff. So I figured I'd try making some how-tos about live sound. Started off with 8 videos, and I got a lot of good feedback from people, and it was helping not like huge volumes of people out, but those few people that were really looking for another resource, it helped them out a lot. So spun it off, made this whole YouTube channel over here, and then I launched the vlog to go with the video series. And I do plan to continue with part 9 of the Live Sound 101 video series in the future. But for now, I'm vlogging, just kind of getting my ideas out there, hearing from people, especially SUing. Gotta love, that's what it's all about. I mean, I really feel like that is what YouTube is all about, is people like SUing. So he's a frequent commenter on this channel, so gotta give a shout out. Hey there. And I feel like there's a huge value in collaboration and kind of going back and forth, and just this communication and ongoing dialogue. It's just an interesting world we live in with the social media and the technology and tools we have at our disposal. So I made a video 2 videos back there. It was an audio lesson, so it had the little blue thumbnail, and it was about how to set levels. And SUing had some pretty good feedback there, and I wanted to respond to that in this video. It brought up some good points. So I did this video about setting levels, and in my mind I was thinking about the task of a volunteer that was coming in to a system that was already installed. So not a church in the box or a portable system or anything like that, but a system that was permanently installed, and you know, the master gains, the EQ, all that system level gain structure would more or less be the same from week to week, because you kind of figure out where your dB SPL level needs to be in the house, and you know, adjust your amplifier gains. And more or less I was talking about, you know, you got a guitar player coming in, how do you set levels per channel for maybe a singer, a guitar player, or you know, keyboard, or what have you. So that was my approach, and I did the how to set levels video. But this is a follow-up to that, because SUing brings up a good point. And he says, before you do any of that, you really need to get your gain structure set up in terms of, you know, if you've got you know, a system level EQ. If you're coming out of your mixing console and you're going into an EQ or an audio DSP, EQs are kind of like the old, back in the day, like 10-20 years ago. You'd come out of a mixing console and you go into like a stereo EQ, and then you go into your amp. That's kind of like how it was. Nowadays, EQs aren't so great, but the audio DSP, which has an EQ and many other cool features built into it, are the thing. So you really, if you're speccing a new system or you're looking to upgrade, you really want to look at some sort of audio DSP, and that stands for digital signal processor. So an audio DSP, or digital signal processor, is what you want to feed, and that's where you can do crossovers depending on the type of box you get, where you can send the high frequencies to the high range drivers. You can send the low frequencies to the low range. You can set crossovers. You can do timing. If you've got like a delay tower or some overflow speakers or under balconies or whatever, you can set delays if there's a time delay that needs to be in there. So the DSP is really that's the way to go. But that's really where you can also, it's another gain stage. So it's another thing where it affects your master level. So you've got to make sure that you're electronically taking signal in you know, at the right level into your DSP. You don't want it to be too quiet. You don't want it to be too loud. You want it to be right around unity gain in an analog type system. But most of the DSPs are digital, so it's really, you know, I don't know if there's a best practice at the master level if you really want to get close to zero or clipping in a digital system. I would recommend staying away from that and giving yourself lots of headroom. But I've heard of people that just try to get that signal all the way up as close as they possibly can to zero. So it depends on the type of DSP, how it responds, and just remember to use your ears and to listen above all. That's what I would consider. It's still technically setting levels, but I would consider kind of the master adjustments a different task. So that's how my brain kind of compartmentalizes things. You've got, you know, the recurring task of, you know, setting levels per channel week in and week out, and you train your volunteers to do that. But you might not necessarily train your volunteers to go in and tweak the, you know, the master, the system audio DSP or amplifier gains. You might actually prefer that the amplifier gain, you know, is kind of locked in with some sort of security cover, because you don't necessarily want those, you know, changing from week to week. Maybe they're dialed in at, you know, 50% or, you know, 75%, and that you've got a certain threshold that kind of keeps the volume from going too loud in the house. But that's the other part of the equation, is because before you can even really figure out where your master setting should be, the way I was trained, the way I was taught when I did the CTS program with Infocom and then got my CTSD, the way that they have you do the exercises and do the calculations is to start with DBSPL requirements at the listening location. So it could be the front row, could be the middle of the house, could be the back of the house, wherever it is, you want to start with, okay, for this specific listening task or activity, how loud does it have to be at the listening location? And once you figure out what that is, then you can figure out, okay, now I know the distance from the listening location back to the speaker. Okay, and if I know that distance, now I can use some math to calculate how loud it has to be at the speaker in order to get a certain dB/SPL level at the listener location. So now you know what, you know, your speaker power handling needs to be. You know what your amplifier, you need to know, like that lets you figure out, okay, how much power do I need at the speaker? How much do I need the amplifier to produce? And you kind of work backwards from there, because I mean, you could get an amplifier that's 50 watts, you get an amplifier that's, you know, 1,000 watts, and it's, you know, how do you know which amp to go for? Do you just kind of pick one randomly, or do you actually do some math and save yourself a whole bunch of money by going with a lesser amplifier that you know has a lower power output? So anyway, that's how you would kind of work backwards in determining, you know, speccing a power amplifier. Now that's something that you know, for commercial applications, residential applications, you know, large venues, like all these different ways that people listen to audio, it's going to be different. You know, there's a commercial philosophy. If you're doing installed sound in a commercial environment, that's quite a different animal than, you know, if you're somebody like Dave Ratt out there, who's, you know, the sound person for like the Red Hot Chili Peppers when they come to town. Like there's a whole nother, it's the same type of technology, a lot of the same principles, but different scales, and there's different things, there's different tools of the trade for each one of those different things. So I'm not going to go too far in depth, other than Dave Ratt has some really cool videos about Power Alley and setting up subwoofers and how to deal with that, because it just depends on what world you live in and where you have experience dealing with that kind of stuff. And you know, the systems that I tend to work on are not and have access to and can play with aren't those large scale systems. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that. But that is to say, I feel like setting up the master system gain, I feel like is a different task and a different beast. I mean, you've got a lot of different things coming into play. The room acoustics, your levels, as I mentioned before, coming in and out of your audio DSP, and then your levels coming in and out of your amplifier are also what you need to consider. But if you don't consider those, then it's going to be, it will affect, setting levels per channel. So you do need to look at the whole picture. So I think that was a valid and a good point that S. Ewing brought up. So good on that. But I think that's pretty much all I have to say about setting levels. I'm not sure exactly what the next thing I was going to mention was going to be. Other than that, I'm on my way to go see the new Star Trek movie. So we're leaving work a little early. Going to go catch a Star Trek movie tonight. So that should be fun. But that's pretty much it. I thought I had one other thing I was going to say about setting levels and gain and making sure everything's good. Is you do have to look at the whole picture. But I think the other thing I would look at is, if you're playing, your test CD, whatever CD is your kind of reference. Everybody's kind of got or you should have, a reference CD that like Miles Davis Kind of Blue, Beatles Abbey Road, Dark Side of the Moon, from Pink Floyd. Lately I've been listening to Adele's 25 album a whole lot. I've been listening to the Alabama Shakes, but like those albums I just kind of listen to all the way through, at home, in my car, all the different systems I have access to. And I you get a feel for the different instrumentation, the mix, how it's supposed to sound. So when you take that with you on a job site, or whether you're running sound, you can pop one of these CDs in that you're very familiar with and kind of hear how it sounds. So that's the other thing I would mention that goes along with setting the gain structures. Make sure you're listening to music when you set these things too, because you can kind of go crazy with tone generators and sine waves and stuff like that, and those are definitely great for reference, but highly recommend actually when you're setting up the system to listen to music. Put up your channel faders up at Unity, put your master fader up at Unity, get the tunes coming through the mixer, and make those master settings with music cranking through, so kind of where you're at in the house when you push that fader up. You want to make sure everything's relative, and you've got you want to make sure you kind of know where things are going to be. And that's been one of the challenges with the system that we currently have, is that there's so many gain stages. It's overcomplicated, and one of the things I'd like to do is help simplify that, and take out some of these extra gain stages if we can. And I don't know, still at a crossroads here with software audio console. It's currently offline because we've got some gremlins in the system. It's been a beast lately, so still need to do a little bit more testing on that front. But I honestly, I think the Behringers are, I think we're feeling the Behringer burn, as I mentioned in the previous video there. So you get what you pay for. But I think I'm going to get off at Route 1 North here. So that about does it for this video. S. Ewing, thank you for the comments. Keep them coming. I do appreciate the back and forth. To me, it doesn't matter if I have 10 viewers or 10,000 viewers. I think the interaction is really what this is all about. So I really appreciate the comments, and you have a nice day. I'll see you in the next video.